Hey everybody out there, this is Seto, and today for you guys we are going to be doing a deck profile that I have really been enjoying playing, and I love saying no to my opponent every single time. And that deck profile is my Counter Fairy deck profile. Yes, that's what we're going to be profiling for you guys today. Now, I have actually played Counter Fairies way back in the GX era. I played them a little bit back when we really played the deck a lot differently back then. There was supposed to be a structure deck that came out back then. We didn't get the structure deck. We actually got it in the main set, and I actually played it a little bit. Later on, I did play it a couple years ago. Again, I got back into it when I was playing Dark Sanctuary to make the final board. I started playing around with Counter Fairies again. And now, since the Counter Fairy structure deck came out earlier this year, I've been playing them quite often. And I decided today to profile a deck for you guys. So without further ado, let us get into the deck profile. I need to get some the holo rarities of some of this stuff eventually because I love this deck. But first off, we got 3 Bountiful Automist. This is your draw engine. Every time you activate a counter trap spell, you get to draw a card. Lovely. This is Aria Grande, or Guiding Ariande as they call it. I call it Aria Grande because that's what I've always called it ever since this came out of Bosch back in the day. But this pretty much allows you to activate your counter traps without paying their effects. Simple as that. Aria Grande. Not Guiding Ariande, Aria Grande. That's what it's called. Next up, we run 2 Minerva Scholar of the Sky. Now, if you guys are not familiar with what this card does, I'm going to read it out for you guys. This card, each time a counter trap card is activated immediately after it resolves, this card gains 500 attack. And if it does, the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field. So if Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, add 1 counter trap with a different name from your graveyard to your hand. So this helps you to reuse, especially if you have Guiding Ariande up or a Grande up. Pretty much you're able to like add back and keep paying off your good counter trap spells. Counter traps, excuse me. So things like your Solemn Judgments, your Solemn Warnings. Judgment you can use multiple times because of this card, and you can not have to pay the life point cost because of this. So yeah, definitely 2 Minerva Scholar. It's a very good card. And lastly, I run 1 Power Angel of Valkyrie. And this is one of the last monsters we run. This allows you to add monsters from your deck to your hand if you have a counter, you activate a counter trap, which is nice in some instances. Not as good as Minerva to help recycle, but it helps you pretty much add things up if you're looking for certain cards in your deck, like maybe Bountiful Artemis or something of that nature. I like it as a 1-of in the deck. Next we run 1 Zephyrus, Herald of Heaven. The only thing this is for is to add your 4th copy of Sanctuary in the Sky from your deck to your hand. So pretty much this is like Commandant, Harpy's Queen, a whole bunch of cards like that where you pitch it to the graveyard, you get to add the field spell directly from your deck to your hand. So count this as more of a monster spell card that's a monster, because you're usually going to be adding the field spell right directly. It's not going to be used as a beat stick. Sometimes, however, you do use it as a beat stick if you're trying to go in and get over something. Because the problem the deck has always had, and it's one of the reasons I know some people do like running Honest in the deck, is it has trouble getting around bigger monsters. This is a prevention deck. You have to prevent the big monsters from coming out. You have to know your opponent's deck. You have to know how your opponent's playing. You have to know their deck. You have to be smart of how you play this deck. You just can't shotgun off all your spells and all your counter traps because you will lose the duel that way. So for this instance, this is pretty much just a way of searching the field spell out. Sorry if I went onto a tangent there for a bit. Next we run 1 Sanctuary, Arc, Air Knight Parshak, which is your boss monster. If you're running Desires in the deck, you run multiples of these, probably 2 of them. But because we're not running Desires in this build of the deck, we're running 1 of them. And there's multiple different ways you can play this deck. I can say that for you guys. There's the Ties of the Brethren way. There's the Demise way. There's a way that's run in between. There's more of a running Honest in the deck. There's so many different ways you can play this deck. There's not just one solid way. Now, Sanctuary in the... Now, let's get back on track here. So the next card we have is the Sanctuary of the Parsha. This counts as Sanctuary in the Sky when it's on the field. It's one of the reasons why I want to do an agent deck profile here soon. An agent deck profile, because this counts as Sanctuary of the Sky. It's a continuous spell card, not just a field spell. So this is really useful to have. If you guys don't know the other effect, I'll read it to you guys, which is it helps get fairy monsters on the field gain 300 attack, which is you don't think is important until you actually play this deck. You can target a total of 3 fairy monsters and counter fairies with different names in your graveyard, place them on top of your deck in any order, which is another nice little thing you can do. So this is a much better card than the Sanctuary in the Sky, the old OG one, but because this card is so integral to your deck, to get a lot of your effects off, your monster effects off, you want to have the extra copy just in case. And this can have, help out in some ways as well, but you only want to run one of it in the deck. Next up, we have 3-card Demise. Pretty staple in any counter fairy trap deck. Now, like I said, there's different ways you can play this deck. You have a way where you can use Ties of the Brethren and Card Demise, but Ties of the Brethren and Card Demise mixed together do not work all too well together. They don't mash as well as I would like them to. I tried it out when this structure deck came out, and it's one of the reasons it took me so long to profile this video for you guys, is because it just wasn't meshing. It wasn't working. I was like, oh, some games I'd be like, yeah, I went off, I did good. And then other games I'd be like, this is Brick City, this sucked, I didn't get what I needed, this was horrible. So you have to choose sometimes when you really play this deck and you really get down to it, you need to understand it's best, and the best way to play it is either you run Ties of the Brethren as a 3-of, or you run Card Demise as a 3-of. Mixing the two together does not always lead to success. I found that out the hard way from playtesting. You can try it out. It may work for you a couple times, but you're going to see that you're going to brick a lot too, and it's not going to be as intuitive. It's not going to work out as well. So I like the 2-card Demise, and then we also run the 3-card Demise, and then we also run your 3 Pot of Duality as well on top of that. This is just more of a let's grind my opponent out type of deck compared to the Ties of the Brethren build. But like I said, you can mish them together if you want to, but that's not what this deck profile is about. This is more of a Card Demise version of the deck. So that's the ratio we run: 3 Duality, 3 Demise. Pretty standard in this version. Then we run also 1 Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn's amazing in this deck because say one of your monsters got destroyed, you can easily reborn it back. So things like, where is he? Battle for Artemis. I can reborn Battle for Artemis if it's engraved, and then I can draw cards and get an engine going. So that works out well. Monster Reborn really helped this deck out more than you know. Next up, we run 3 Drastic Drop-Off. You run 3 Drastic Drop-Off. This is a card, and at first I was running 2 of it. I was running 1 of it, then I ran 2 of it, and then I decided to run 3 of it eventually because I was finding very quickly play testing this deck out back before the structure deck even came out, that Drastic Drop-Off is one of those type of cards where I can just activate it. I can shotgun this, and if I can keep reoccurring it to my hand through things like Minerva Scholar, it can actually create sort of, in a very strenuous way, a Yada lock. It can kind of create a Yada lock, because what you do if you have Minerva Scholar on the field, what you can do is you can just be like, oh, okay, I have Minerva Scholar. I activate this, activate one of these, then I add the other one back, or activate another trap card. So you can keep ditching cards out of their hand, which is not a Yada lock per se, but it's a sort of way to do that with these 2 cards comboed off. But it's a card effect that's always going to be live and can help get your engine going, because if you have Minerva Scholar on, you get to add your traps back. If you have Battle for Artemis, it gets you draws. It's something that's always going to be live to some degree. So I like it as a 3-of in the deck. Next we have 2 Divine Punishment. This card works because you run, and like I said before, this is also a version that is based around Card Demise and the Sanctuary in the Sky, which sort of kind of loosely works off Ties of the Brethren. You can run Sanctuary in the Sky, Ties of the Brethren build. I have built that. But saying that, Sanctuary, because you're running Sanctuary of the Sky in the deck, you can run Divine Punishments, which is pretty much just like its own Solemn Judgment, which is awesome. Got my super ones, so got that. Next we run 2 Divine Rebirth Pearl Shaft. You have to use this card smartly. You have to have the thing that sucks about this card is I've seen people run as a 3 of, and I get it. It's a good card. But the problem that sucks with this is this card does not mesh well with Card of Demise. It sucks with Card of Demise. Why? Because you have to have that certain type of card in your hand. So if I have a counter trap card in my hand, I'm golden. But that means I can't set it, which means I have to wait another turn to set that card I just have in my hand. So use this card wisely. You know, like if you have a counter trap spell in your hand, you have to reveal it to activate it. So use it wisely. Don't remember not to set all your counter traps sometimes, because this card would sometimes be dead if you don't. And like I said, the fact that you have to retain a card in hand does not work well with Card of Demise. You can't use Card of Demise to its most optimal way. So just saying that off the top of my head. Next I run 2 Ultimate Providence. You could run 3 of this card. It's really good. I really like it as a 2 of in the deck. There are other counter trap spells you could run. Grand Horn of Heaven is another one, I think it is. There's some of the Horn cards I've seen people run recently. That work well in the deck, and you could run that. But I like Ultimate Providence as a 2 of in the deck. 3 of, it's a little bit too much, because I find personally from playtesting that this card does the same thing as this, and this is more live most of the time. This card's still good though, so I definitely run it in the deck. But 3 of, you could run in the deck with it, but I prefer 2 of. So 2 Ultimate Providence. 1 Broken Line. This is staple in the deck, no matter which build you're building. You may say, Broken Line as a 1 of, what are you talking about? Well, first off, it's a counter trap. Second off, I can set it up in any column. And it's going to play with my opponent's mind. It is literally a mind game. I can't tell you how many times I've activated this, and my opponent's like, oh shit, he's running Broken Line. It's the same thing with Mech Knights. When I see people playing Mech Knights and they find out that they're playing Mech Knights, they start messing with their board, and they're more concerned with setting up their board than like understanding what's going on and what the plays are doing. So Broken Line starts a mind game with your opponent in some way, shape, or form. Believe me, it does. But you don't want to run it more than a 1 of, because after you activate that 1 of, your opponent is going to know to not set cards in, set cards in the same column as a face down card. Okay, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So they're not going to be like, oh, I summoned this monster with a face down trap card in the back. They're not going to do that anymore. They're going to set it to someone else. So if you run multiple Broken Line, it's not going to work. But if you run 1 of it, it's going to surprise them, especially in game 1. Game 2, you could take this out, and they're still going to think it's in the deck. So it's a really good card as a 1 of in the deck, though. I do like it, but you can play around with it. It's really fun. Next, we run the big boys of the deck, which I call the Solemn Brigade. We run our 3 Solemn Strike, our 1 Solemn Judgment, and our 1 Solemn Warning. Yes, strikes, judgment, warning. We run them all in this deck. So you definitely run them all. Judgment, like I said, you can use multiple times. Strike is a good card. Warning is a good card. It's staple in any counter fairy deck ever. It's amazing. I'm just so happy we have the entire lineup back. It's so cool, especially to have Judgment back. And lastly, I run 3 Storming Mirror Force. Now you may ask me, Seto, why are you running Storming Mirror Force? It's not a counter trap. What's up? The reason for this is I find a lot of times, like I said earlier, my monsters can easily get run over. Remember I said that earlier? So if I have this on the field, or I have my Grande on the field, whatever the case may be, it can easily get over and my board can be cracked and all my counter traps become useless. I want to have some type of way to back that up, to protect them. And that's why I run 3 Storm Mirror Force, because it protects me. And it's non-targeting removal. If you have big cards in the field, I can just bounce them all back to the deck. And then my counter fairies can go in to, attack you. So if you've gone off and then I've drained your resources through my counter traps and my board is still present, I can easily win that duel a lot more, because this deck is a war of attrition. And Storming Mirror Force can put the nails in has put the nail in the coffin for many duels that I've played against. It just wins me the game. So 3 Storming, you could run it if you don't. You cannot run it if you don't want to, but I like it in the deck, and it has put in work for me. So let's go into the extra deck. Now before I go into the extra deck, guys, I want to mention that the extra deck you really do not go into that often, if at all, really. You'll sometimes go into it, but not a lot of the times. So I just want to mention that. This is just there in case of emergencies. So if you want to run things like Winter Cherries or things of that nature, like ABC Buster in the extra deck, or Spiral stuff, Link monsters, so you could just hit your opponent, get some auto wins. you could do that in the deck. But we got my Field Centers, Blue Angel, and Dark Magician, as always. We have Avenging That, Parshaft. We run 2 of that. You guys know how this works. This helped. You're able to get this off through using Rebirth the Parshaft, if you guys didn't know that. So Rebirth the Parshaft can bring this out, or it can bring out the big, huge one. I don't know where he's at the moment, but yeah, you can bring out all the different Parshafts. Next up, we run the Utopia package, so 39, S Utopia, Utopia the Lightning. We run Bagasucha, Tornado Dragon, Castel, Heartland Drago, and Gagaga Cowboy. You run these 2 because these can win you games going into time. But yeah, that does work. 101, Giant Hand, number 70, Malevolent Sins, and Diamond Direwolf. Like I said, you can run any rank 4s you really want to in the deck. It's up to you to decide which you would like to run. So, yep, that is the deck profile. I hope you guys all enjoyed this deck. I thoroughly enjoy playing this deck. It is super fun to play, and it's super enjoyable to play. And it's a really thinking man's deck. And you have to know your opponent. And like I said earlier, you have to know what your opponent's doing. You can't shotgun off effects. Otherwise, you are going to 100% lose. You need to know how your opponent's deck operates and to stop them at their key points in time. You do that, you drain them of resources, and then you win. This deck is a war of attrition. So, I'm just letting you guys know that before you start playing it. But, I hope you guys all enjoyed this deck profile. Yeah, I gotta put Aria Grande on top. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Till next time, guys, take care, have fun dueling, good luck dueling. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a big thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video.